As many of you know, I wrote a book in 2017 called Monkey Mind, Robot Body, and I'd like to thank those that have bought it. I actually received it as a kind of download in 2016. The storyline came to me immediately whilst I was rather bored at a conference, listening to some lecture that obviously... Well, I remember asking the gods, what is it I'm supposed to be doing during this rather boring lecture? And that's when this storyline downloaded for Monkey Mind, Robot Body. And then I was obviously taken with the idea. That's why I wrote the book. I went and researched about robots and AI and such like, and the coming transhumanism. And I've added a lot of theological arguments to it and such like. But now I'm beginning to see a more devilish, demonic plan perhaps going on to why all this transhumanism is coming our way. And I'm going to start with saying, back in the not too distant past, robots were made quite a lot. Well, actually they were automatons, and they were more mechanical in nature, and they were usually created to entertain and amuse. For example, Dr. John Dee, the Queen Elizabeth I's astrologer and the magician of that time, created a flying bird for a play. I think it was by Aristophanes, I might be wrong on that. But this bird flew around the theatre. It was a mechanical bird, and it wowed everyone. Everybody thought it was magic. They didn't understand how he was doing it. And then, of course, Leonardo da Vinci, the great artist, created a mechanical lion that amused Italy's subjects. So as I said, back in that day, the robots and the automatons were mechanical, and they became electronic in the 1800s, Nikola Tesla being one of the first to create automatons, believing they would labour for humanity, doing all the heavy jobs and leaving men and women to have more time for leisure. Please see my book, what's it called? No, Tesla and Twain. I can't even remember the name of my book. But I find it quite amusing that in this day and age, humans actually turn to computers to spend their leisure time with. Most people go to their computers to play games for when they want to find something to pass the time with. I don't think Tesla was visualising that kind of thing when he was hoping that people would make more use of their leisure. But as you're aware, we've gone from mechanical to digital, and in fact computers are doing the work for us. But what I question is, are the computers serving us, or are we now a slave to them? One book I've just finished reading, which I highly recommend, is by Jeremy Nadler, The Struggle for a Human Future, Augmented Reality and the Internet of Things. And I've been agreeing with a lot of what he's been saying. I don't know, I've been to his lectures before in the past, but reading his book I've realised that he's thinking along the same kind of lines as I am. I'm watching a natural world be replaced with an artificial world. A couple of years ago, mosquitoes were replaced with genetically modified ones. I think they were all female genetically modified ones, but I might be wrong on that. And the whole point of it was that they were hoping that with these genetically modified mosquitoes, they would go out, mate with the other mosquitoes, and over time it'd be able to drive malaria out. And that's a good thing, I suppose, but I just don't like this genetically modified way of things. And then this year, just recently, it was announced that robotic bees were being released into nature because they pollinate flowers better than the insects that have been doing that job for the last hundreds of thousands of years, probably millennia, millions of years. We also now live in a world where many things are replaced by robots. For example, there are now guard dogs. We usually see the guards walking about with proper four-legged organic dogs like Alsatians and other four-legged friends are being replaced by robot guard dogs. Maybe this is a good thing. A robot guard dog can go into situations that maybe we don't want our four-legged organic friends going into. Robot guard dogs are obviously stronger, possibly faster, and also repairable if there are any accidents. Plus, robotic dogs are rather intimidating. I don't know if you've seen them on the web, but I find them a bit scary. And then we've got the sex robots, which have been used obviously for sex. Sex robots will replace people who are traded and trapped in the sex trade. Again, a good thing, but where does all this stop? Where does the robot and AI stop doing our jobs? The technology of today and the people behind it are adamant they are going to create an artificial world, and what is worse, continue sending that kind of technology into the future, into the universe. It's all beginning to sound like a bad sci-fi movie that humanity's robotic AI technology is going to take over the universe. Is this advancement, and what are the spiritual connotations? It seems humanity has wandered from its spiritual path and instead gone full throttle down the materialistic. And what is worrying is that those who want this technological smart world future insist that all humans will be a part of it. Those who are against this are going to find it very difficult to live a normal life in this smart world as the rest of the humanity becomes augmented with technology, and the whole of the organic planet, animals, plant life and such like, is either genetically manipulated or replaced with a digital version. Going back to Jeremy Nadler's book, The Struggle for Human Future, he reminds us, as do many others, that this technology has taken us away from ourselves and our surroundings. People don't go out and do things anymore. Instead, people go into their TVs and computers and the computer games that are offered for them. Now, what could be wanting to distract us from our spiritual path? The dark forces, of course. Lucifer and Ahriman want to keep us here on earth, and, well, Jeremy Nadler explains in his book about how the Ahrimanic eye that we have in us watches TV, the films and the computer screens, and that Ahrimanic eye comes from the Ahrimanic being that's put into us from birth. I've read I put up recently Steiner's lecture on how we were born, all of us, with this Ahrimanic being inside us, this other, this doppelganger. So Steiner was saying about this Ahrimanic doppelganger that joins us just before birth, and because it cannot follow us through the portal of death, it has to leave us just before we die, and it has to go and find another host to live in, another human that's about to be born. Well, as you know, there's lots of talk of the future of humanity becoming transhuman, bodies being replaced with cyborg parts, cybernetic parts. You know, and where does that stop? At some point, they're going to try and figure out how to make a cyborg body. But how will they move the consciousness into a cyborg body? I don't know. And in my book, Monkey Mind, Robot Body, you know, it's a fiction book, so I kind of throw in a bit of magic as to how it's happened. But should it be possible that humans can live in a cyborg robotic body, it would extend our life, perhaps indefinitely. So then the Ahrimanic doppelganger that's inside us will be able to live with the same host forever. I wonder if Ahriman and the other dark forces are whispering into the ears of these technocrats who are proposing this agenda, perhaps encouraging them to find a way to put humanity's consciousness into a body that will not die, that will never die, that will never foul, you know, because that's the problem about organic bodies, they do foul eventually. So if they can put us into a cyborg body, then we'll be living for a lot longer. But I also want to remind you about what Steiner says in his lectures on agriculture, and he talks about electricity. And he says that electricity is light in a fallen, degraded state. In fact, that it has fallen beneath nature into the sub-natural realm. And I find it interesting that we're all, hopefully, trying to become beings of light, but we would be a higher version of light, where electricity is this fallen light. I just want to finish with a quote from Jeremy Nadler's book, The Struggle for a Human Future, and he says, And that is why we must actively guard against an ever-increasing dependence on it, meaning electricity, for it threatens to drag us down. So please go forward creating your light bodies. You know, there's great meditations on how to develop your light body. I've done shows about how to develop your light body, mainly in the Gurdjieff shows that I've done. We want to go forwards and evolve, not be stuck here with an Ahrimanic being in a robotic body. Or maybe you do, because what a way to live forever. Maybe someone that does end up in a cyborg body would then have enough time to develop themselves, their consciousness properly, so that they do evolve. You know, there's pros and cons to everything, but how many humans that go into a cyborg body, oh, I can't talk again, cyborg body, would actually work on themselves, to develop themselves, to evolve themselves, to perfect themselves, to go on to the next stage? I'm not sure. Thanks for listening.